Hello and welcome to today's episode of Courage Permission Slip. I am your host, Kia, and today I'm bringing you a listener spotlight. What is that? In these spotlights, I'm talking with listeners who've reached out directly or shared a review about how Courage Permission Slip has helped them in some way, shape, or form. And for our premiere episode, I invited Alissa Leeper, a loyal listener, to share about her experience and how after a 16-year career working at one of the top sports footwear brands in the world, she took a leap of courage to step away, shift her career, and focus back to her purpose. Welcome to the show, Alissa, and I'm so thankful that you are willing to share about yourself and your experience today.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Thank you. So I shared a little bit about you, but tell us a little bit about yourself and where you are right now.
Oh, yes. I love the where I am. So long ago, it was literally, and I have to share this, it was literally a rainy day in Portland, gray clouds. You know how that can be. Thankfully, it's not today in the summer. And I got the call that there was going to be a big shift in my career. There was going to be a big organizational change, and I had many choices presented to me, and a rainbow appeared. Literally, a rainbow appeared as I was on the call. And I was in my backyard and I thought, okay. And I listened. There were no answers at the time. And I got off the phone and I made some choices. Mm-hmm. So fast forward to where I am today, I decided to make the brave, courageous decision to walk away from this career path and really take time to recenter. Mm-hmm. Just recenter, refocus, clear things out, take on new, and let go of the old.
Mm-hmm. And I remember, because you and I have known each other for a few years, and I remember when you were approached with this decision of what you were going to do at this company and how you were kind of examining all your options. And I remember us talking on the phone about and this was way before Courage Permission Slip was even, a spark in my mind, but we were talking about all the things that you were exploring. And it's so interesting to see where you are now versus where you are then, and all the things that are kind of cooking and brewing for you. And it's just, I think that's just a great example of how we are all on these journeys, and where we are right now is not where we're going to be a month, 6 months, a year, 2 years from now, and just be open to that journey, which you have really been open and just taking in all the inputs and assessing what is right for you. So I really, I'm thankful that I've been able to be in the front seat of this journey and that we get to talk about it a little bit today. So Alissa, with that, and where you are right now, I wanted to ask you, so you got this call, and now Courage Permission Slip is in the world. And I'm curious to hear what were you dealing with in the moment, and when you heard an episode that helped you to have a breakthrough?
Yeah. I didn't have a plan. I made a courageous decision, and part of that courageous decision was also not having a perfect plan, because most of my life and most of the way I was raised was to have a goal, create the goal, tackle the goal, kill it, and create the next goal, right? And that was since birth. So this was the first time in my life too, I made the decision I didn't have an exact goal. The first episode, I have two that were pivotal for me, like visceral chills, which is so good. One, I will say, I'm really particular to linguistics and how someone's voice sounds. So I just felt like Robin Owens, her voice was I just wanted to listen to her. So shout out to her and her beautiful voice. But, she talked about the definition of success. And I was in a place where I was trying to redefine what success was, because I had just been on such a trajectory of goal, 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 which is great. That's great. And I'm glad I was raised to be that way. But I was in this in between time. And she defined success as inner peace. And
I
here is
remember
this
that.
woman.
Yes.
Here is this woman with like a million accolades, very affluent, high marks. And I'm just like, oh, wow. It stopped me dead on my, usually I go for walks and I listen to my favorite podcast of the week, which was that one at that particular week. And I was like, that's what it is. And it can shift. But I was potentially, honestly, looking for a little validation, because I knew my goal for success at the time wasn't a title or a paycheck or a material thing. It was something deep within, and I needed to hear that. So that was big.
Yeah, and this is something, I mean, certainly you and I have talked about it, but this is something that comes up quite a bit, is the definition of success, and
Yeah.
how there's this kind of external worldview of what success is,
Yeah.
and people adopt that as their own, and it creates tension for people. It creates this. So you talked about the way that I've come up, which I am this way, have been this way, and try to pull off of this way of doing things. But of, like, you set a goal and you do whatever it takes,
Whatever
and
it
that
takes.
includes burnout, pushing through all of that to achieve that goal. But then you take a step back and it's like, why am I doing this? Is this what I want? Like, or am I doing what I think I'm supposed to be doing? And that comes up a lot, where when I'm doing a training, or when I'm speaking, and even sometimes when doing these episodes and being in conversations with people, there's a moment where people realize, oh, wait, this vision that I have of success isn't mine. It's what I heard someone, on the news, or one of the talking heads, or maybe even someone in their family or in their community. I speak with a lot of people, and I coach with a lot of people who define success by what they think their family and their cultural experience has defined as success. So, and so again, when people have that realization, then it starts breaking down that tension, but still it's hard letting go of those ingrained beliefs. Would you agree with that?
I'm a work in progress, and I mean, let's be real, the world we live in is not shouting to be true to yourself. It's shouting other things. And hey, I love those nice things too. I am not against the goals. I am pro, leveling up on all levels, but I'm also very clear that for me and a lot of people I share community with, including yourself, inner peace brews everything else to feel good. And so I add on to Robin Owens' definition of success as inner peace and feeling it. Right? Because there are times where success I have had, my husband has had, and then you don't feel it. So it's a balance.
Absolutely. So you mentioned Robin Owens' episode. Were there any other episodes that you heard an insight or two that was helpful, or at least thought-provoking for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to pick, like very hard to pick. And I think I wrote in my review, which was forever ago, but I think I said it's a pick me up, because it's really nice to just get on and be like, oh, got a little dose, keeping going. And however we get it, throughout the day. So that is a gift. And I thank you for creating that gift for so many different people to go, oh, okay. But, I didn't plan it this way, but it's like the two Robins. So it's this duality, ironically, and not ironically, because I have this duality myself where, first it was the success being inner peace. And I was able to build off of that and also get validation in my journey. And then Robin Tompkins comes with you. And, my visceral response to her episode is probably on a walk again. Not going to lie. I do a lot of that these days. Hopefully it was a different place when I listened to it, but it was like, I literally shouted, yes, because she started talking about this story where she was in the boardroom. She called herself a baby prosecutor. And it was a moment where there was a different opposing view, and it was her turn to speak. And she paused and said, I don't understand. And then the judge said, well, great, because me neither. And I was like, okay. And, and she expands on it. And I don't actually want to give it away because I would love for people to go back to that episode because I'm butchering it clearly. But she expanded on the courageous voice that we have, that we can ask questions and we can actually, I did this a lot throughout my career. I knew the answers in the room, but I knew a lot of people didn't. Ask the question, be bold, break things down, or maybe let's pull some people off their, pedestal a little bit and say, and what did you mean by that? So I just love her message of being okay with being transparent and asking the questions and using your voice.
Yeah. I remember that conversation, and I remember having a reaction to that too, because, you think about a lawyer being in the courtroom, which is just intimidating on its surface, right? I've served on a jury, and that was like, ooh, you just felt like, okay, I don't want to do anything wrong. And for her as a prosecutor early in her career to have the courage to say that. But as we went on to say, and I'm not giving anything too deep away, but you said it too, is when you raise your hand and say, I'm not sure about this, or, oh, I'm not sure that I understood that. When you do that, it gives other people the courage to say, yeah, me either, because everyone is sitting there like, oh my God, I don't want to look stupid. In fact, I did that the other day. I saw someone mention some terminology, and this is on social media, and I was afraid to post a question. I said, at the risk of sounding dumb, can you say what you meant by this? And that was terrifying, but I got the answer that I wanted. No one canceled me. No one, trolled me or anything like that. But when you do that, it gives other people, I would say, not only courage to say, oh yeah, I didn't get that either, but it also gives people a sense of, ooh, okay, I'm okay. Because I think so often we're so harsh with ourselves, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I don't understand this. Everyone else gets it and I don't. And everyone else is struggling and questioning too. They may not have the exact same questions, but by you saying, I didn't understand that, it shows that it's okay to not know everything all the time. You can't.
Yeah. And there was so much time in my career in high level situations and high pressure situations where I was the reluctant leader in the room asking the challenging questions. And that may not have always been perceived as positive. And I really liked the reframe that Robin shared in that episode of, this is making room for everyone else. And that's one of my core values. I would rather throw myself out there, I'm fine, and have everybody else feel a little more seen and heard than continue the path forward without collaboration, really. So I really resonated to that, because so many times colleagues would say, you said the things I was thinking, but I was too afraid to say, and I'm like, hey, I paid a price for it because it's not always welcomed. But I'm happy to do that. And that's been kind of like one of my, rubs as I redefine success is, is has that always been a positive? And maybe I just wasn't in the right environment, and maybe this other environment that is a positive. And I loved how she shared how positive that was.
Yeah, yeah. And I think there is, and you talked about like bringing people off of their pedestal. And I think, and
Mhm.
I think Robin Tompkins and I talked about this in the episode as well, of where leaders want to look as if they have it all together, they know, and that doesn't bring everyone along, right? That's not that rising tide
Yeah.
that lifts all boats. It's intimidating for people. And so to be
Yeah.
able to say, as a leader, right, as the person in the room who seems like, oh, there's no way they can understand it. It makes you more accessible. I think she talked about not only transparency, but
Mhm.
vulnerability. It makes you more accessible.
Mhm.
I think it's easier for people to trust leaders, especially, right?
Mhm.
Because I've heard this countless times where
Mhm.
when people aren't vulnerable, when they're not showing a little bit of the dent in the armor, that people are like, they don't feel
Yep.
safe, for lack of a better term. They don't feel safe around you. They don't feel safe to make mistakes or to be infallible around them. And so I think,
Mhm.
especially for leaders, that quality of being able to say, you know what? I actually don't know what to say in this moment in time. Let me think about this and get back to you. I think that endears trust. It certainly develops an environment
Mhm.
of psychological safety, and safety to fail,
Mhm.
safety to make mistakes, safety to not
Yeah.
know it all. So I think, especially for leaders, and in this moment in time that we're in, it's important to be able to say,
Yep.
you know, I I'm not feeling great about this. I'm not sure how to move forward from here.
Mhm. Be human,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Be human. Be human. So, Alissa, you shared some takeaways from some episodes that have resonated with many other people. And so I would love to hear from you, what actions did you take, or maybe are thinking of taking, or perhaps what shifts in your thinking or your situation have resulted from those insights that you heard?
For one, I mean, and this isn't exactly measurable, but I think it's energy. And I think
Mhm.
validation and energy and inspiration are completely, something that we all need in these times, especially in the times where I was listening to those episodes. Like, we were still in a very serious COVID wave. You don't have access to those connections. And I think we have to really honor the times that we're in,
Yeah.
and that the inspiration energy we can find to just keep going and be on our path is the gift. um I'm an action oriented person. I was born that way. So yeah, I mean, I think both episodes validated my other value system that we talk about a lot too, which is trusting yourself, trusting your process, and really being able to listen to your own voice, which sounds so simple. Listen to your own voice. But I think the more time we spend in different areas in our career path, different leaders, different coaches, we do start to, and it's not always a bad thing. It's a great thing
Yeah.
too, but we start to have all these other opinions,
Mhm.
and views and systems. And I think giving ourselves time to really clear it out is one of the most valuable things you can do. and
Mhm.
and that's what this definition of success is inner peace really brought forth for me.
Mhm.
Because up until then, I mean, to be honest, there was a little bit of me laughing at myself, like, I need to figure this out,
Yeah.
because I always have. And then
Mhm.
being able to trust in it, and then
Mhm.
trust myself.
Mhm.
And that has proven to be successful. I've created pathways.
Mhm.
I've gotten some certifications. I've really been very clear and intentional on my next steps for, it's kind of tongue in cheek, but what my husband says is rebranding myself. Because when
Mhm.
you spend so much time in one environment or a brand,
Yeah.
it's an awesome ride. And you
Mhm.
also embody that brand's credo. And it takes time to really kind of unpack, who am I without that?
Mm. Mm. You bring up an important point that I hear, and especially, we're in a period now at time of recording, we're in the highest rates of inflation that we've had in 41 years. Uh, there are layoffs happening at very large companies weekly. And what in all the coaching that I have done, I have coached a lot of people who have been laid off, who have been caught up in a company's restructuring. And I cannot tell you, I mean, if I had a penny for every time I've met with someone who, once they were laid off or some kind of restructuring in their organization where their position has just shifted, right? It's not that they had to leave the company, it's just their position has shifted. There is
Mhm.
this real crisis of identity because we spend so much time building our lives around our work, and we lose sight of the fact that our job is just part of who we are. But there is,
Yes.
again, there's this huge identity crisis that comes about when people are laid off because we tie so much of our worth and our value and our confidence to the title that we have, the company that we work at, the salary that we make, the work that we do. And there is this rebuilding and rebranding that has to happen to see who, as you said, who am I without this job? Who am I
Yes.
without this title? And that is not something that is easy to do. It certainly is not a quick process. And it does take that time. Going back to something you said a moment ago, it does mean that it's not going to be beneficial for you to jump right back in, for you
Yeah.
to I've got to figure this out right now. There is a lot, I talk about this on the show quite a bit, that courage is not always action and moving forward and being loud and bold. Courage is also being still, being
Yes.
quiet, being reflective, taking time to think and figure it out. And so I think that speaks to where you are and the journey that you've been on, that is courageous to not default to your way of, I got to get this figured out. I've got to, got to go in this direction. It instead, you have been courageous in this activity of, let me take time to think about who I am away from this job that I had for double-digit years. So I want to really commend you for letting yourself trust, letting yourself take the time to think, what is it that I want? What does inner peace look like for me right now? Because the way that inner peace looks for you right now is not the way that it looked 2 years ago before the pandemic started. It's not, and it's not how it's
Yeah.
going to look 2 years from now.
Yeah.
But just giving yourself that space is also courageous.
I agree. When I think about courage, I'm like aging myself, but I think of like the Wizard of Oz and the
Mm,
lion, and we also, I mean, I think a lot of your guests have shared this. Like sometimes it feels like this outward thing, but I think the power is in the inward
yes.
aspect of
Mhm,
courage.
mhm,
And, on this journey of being quiet, the world and the people, and sometimes the people you love the most
mhm,
won't understand,
mhm.
and that's been a part of my process too, of having to really, um, shut down, get offline, distance myself from anything to just really recenter. And I think that there is so much power if we can allow our, even 5 minutes a day to just recenter, to listen to ourselves.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm a big advocate for that. People are probably tired of hearing me talk about take time to like check in with yourself.
No.
Ugh. Alyssa, so there is someone who might be listening to this right now who is thinking about, should I continue to listen to this? What should I do? And I would love to hear your thoughts on what should someone who is thinking of tuning in, what should they know about Courage Permission Slip?
I love that. First of all, every episode is different, so it's always nice to just tune in anytime you want. And I have a couple of favorite podcasts that I get energy from, and sometimes it's nice to just go back and go through. It doesn't always have to be the most recent.
Sure.
But I think the Courage Permission Slip is really what you can make it your own. So much in life, and obviously in our culture, our world we're in, we're looking for it on the outside and it's on the inside, and that's scary.
Yeah.
That is scary. That is unknown. But it's taking a time out. It's taking that 5 minutes. It's pausing, and it's being unafraid to not have the answer. Trusting that it will come. I was fortunate to, save up and have the resources to hire support and coaches to work through, this time. And I had a coach say something like, I think you have all the answers within. I don't really think we need, and I was like, what? No, tell me what to do. And I mean, and I have to make that joke because I like to joke. And so it's like, don't take yourself so seriously, and take some time, take some time, because it always comes back around. So that is kind of my invitation to people.
Yeah. I love that. I love that summary of guidance and insight. Alissa, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to share about you and your experience and your journey, and really where you are on that journey. And for the person who would love to get in touch with you and learn more about you, where should they connect with you?
Thank you. I'm humbled, and it's an honor to share space with you as always. And thank you for having this podcast. Keep it going. What's so funny is, I just became back online. So I'm on LinkedIn, Alissa Leeper, and I have launched my own personal business at alissaleeper.com.
Fabulous. I'm so excited for you. And I will share links in the show notes so that you can get in touch with Alissa and continue following her journey.
Thank you.
Alissa, thank you again. And thank you for tuning into today's episode of Courage Permission Slip. If you find us on YouTube, please make sure that you like this episode and subscribe so that you can be alerted when new episodes are available. And if you are listening on your favorite podcast platform, please be kind enough to rate and review so that it makes it easier for other people to find and enjoy this content as well. That's it for today's episode. Please make sure that you are making your dreams bigger and more important than your fears. And we will see you on the next episode. Bye now.